Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, class 4. Dear students, yesterday I started to explain you chapter 4. Is the prince mad? Today I will complete the remaining explanation. Please listen quietly. You have to answer few questions. Also, you have to answer who is the speaker or listener of the given sentence. So please be attentive. Yes, students, in the beginning of chapter 4, King Henry was worried and upset because of his son. He thought that the prince had been studying so hard. He forbade everybody to discuss about the prince's illness. The king ordered to arrange the coronation ceremony. Dear students, we also read about Lord Hertford and Lord St. John. They were also worried about that situation. So please look at the next heading. Take out page number 18. Tom's first dinner at the palace. Yes, class, some time later, Tom had his first dinner at the palace. A servant stood behind each chair. The food was wonderful. Tom ate it with his fingers, but nobody stared at him. The king had given orders about that. A servant put a beautiful golden fruit on Tom's gold plate. It was like a ball of gold, and it had a strange smell. "What's this?" asked Tom in surprise. "An orange, my lord," answered the servant. He pretended not to notice when Tom tried to eat the skin of the orange. After dinner, the servants whispered among themselves. They were all sure that their young prince was mad. Yes, class. After some time, Tom had his first dinner at the palace. There were so many servants standing behind each chair. They all were instructed not to notice anything. There were extremely good food on the table. Tom didn't know about the table manners. All the kings and the prince used knife and fork to eat. Instead of using these things, Tom ate the dinner with his fingers. He was surprised to see the orange. He had never eaten such a fruit. He tried to eat the skin of the orange. All the servants were sure that the prince was mad. Yes, class. Next page. After the meal, servants brought a big silver bowl full of nuts. Tom had eaten nuts before in his old life in Fish Street. He filled his pockets with nuts. Everybody very carefully pretended not to notice. Then a servant brought a bowl of warm water with a sweet-smelling flower in it for him to wash his hands. Another servant held a clean white towel. Tom picked up the bowl and drank the water. "This doesn't taste very nice," he said. Still nobody took any notice. At last the meal was finished and Tom was able to go back to the prince's room. He was very glad to be alone. There he amused himself by cracking the nuts with something heavy. What did he crack them with? You will have to wait until the end of the story. When he had eaten all the nuts, he felt happier and he lay down to rest on the prince's beautiful bed. Yes, class 4. As you know, Tom is eating his first dinner. Now, after the dinner, servants brought nuts. Tom had eaten nuts before in Fish Street. He quickly filled his pockets with nuts. Obviously, students, it was out of manner for a prince to do so, but everybody pretended that they didn't notice. And when some warm water had been brought to him for washing hands, he drank that water. It was pretty bad. Still, nobody noticed. At last, the dinner was finished. But still, Tom had something funny to do. Do you remember, students? What was in his pocket? Who will tell me? Yes, nuts. He had a pocket full of nuts. He cracked the nuts. Look at this. Do you like nuts? Yes, class. Tom Canty had a pocket full of nuts. He cracked the nuts with something very heavy and ate them. What was that heavy thing? In the end of this novel, you will get the answer. Yes, class. Next page. The Lost Seal, page number 20. King Henry VIII woke out of a troubled dream. He felt ill, tired, and very old. I know that I shall not live much longer, he said to himself. I am old and I have had a long life, and I am ready to die. But Lord Norfolk has made me angry. He must die before I do. I will give the orders now. He called to his servants, Bring me the Great Seal. Now, in those days, kings did not just sign their names with a pen and ink. They used a seal too. Look at the picture, class. The Great Seal. King Henry's seal was made of gold, and he used it on all his important papers. It was called the Great Seal, and it was as big as a man's hand and very heavy. Only the king or his eldest son could use the Great Seal, and everything that the king or his son signed had to be marked with the Great Seal. Lord Hertford arrived. My lord, he said, you gave the Great Seal to Prince Edward yesterday. You are right. Go to his room and fetch it. Lord Hertford came back, shaking his head. The prince says he knows nothing about the Great Seal, my lord. Poor mad boy, said the king sadly. Don't worry him now, but as soon as the Great Seal is found, Norfolk must die. Yes, class 4. King Henry woke out of a bad dream. He was feeling tired and ill. He thought that he would die very soon. I know that I shall not live much longer. Who is the speaker here, class 4? Yes, King Henry. And who is the listener? He said to himself. So, speaker was himself. He was not happy with Lord Norfolk. He ordered his servants to bring the Great Seal. Those days, king must had to use a seal to mark on their written order with king's signature. The Great Seal was made of gold, and the king used it on important papers. It was as big as a man's hand. It was very heavy. No one could use the Great Seal except the king and his elder son, the prince. Lord Hertford informed King Henry that the Great Seal was given to the prince, but prince didn't know about it. The Great Seal was missing. No one could find the Great Seal of England. The king sent Lord Hertford immediately to fetch the Great Seal. Unfortunately, since Tom had no idea of what it was, he didn't know where it was. The king ordered not to trouble the prince. Yes, class 4, this is the end of the explanation of chapter 4. I suggest you all to please listen the explanation at least twice. Thank you.